Hey everyone, it's a cold and windy winter day here, and I thought I would read a story from my new book, The Invisible Hand, which came out from Hamilton Stone Editions. And many thanks to Mira Sue Willis and Lou Robinson for helping me with the production of this book and for publishing it. This story is called Rooted, and it's a story that I guess the premise of it came to me based on I can't remember exactly where I heard this, but I was interested in writing about a character who collected all the leftovers from farmers markets and sort of redistributed them. I just thought it was an interesting kind of character premise and character aspect, I guess you would say. And so I wrote the story around that, and then sort of it went from there. So it originally appeared in the Fredericksburg Fredericksburg Literary and Arts Review a couple years ago. And like I said, it's a story called Rooted. And it's sort of like right in the middle of the book. I'd be lying if I told you my father isn't a good man. He's a gem. If you ask me, he's absolutely perfect. My father has money. He's tall and handsome. He's witty. He's worldly, Ivy League. He has a beautiful wife, my mother, 3 children who adore him, and most likely a lovely vixen for a mistress. He would never leave my mother. He'd never act in an indiscreet manner. He'd be classy about it. Though he worked for years at a nonprofit serving the blind, now that my father is retired, he spends his time volunteering. Soup kitchens, domestic violence shelters. He reads to the illiterate. He volunteers for pet clinics. He helps out at children's hospitals. He brings food to the elderly, and healthy food at that. He is good. It's all a bit much, really. My father mostly occupies himself, however, with farmers markets. Each Saturday, after the farmers markets wrap up, he's the guy who collects all the cast-offs and hauls them to various needy families around town. Given the sheer mass of produce he collects, this duty takes him well into Tuesday morning. The pile of produce and bread from the bakery, and sometimes flowers from the local gardener, is so large that it usually necessitates my father making 4 or 5 trips to and from the market. I know all this because I've accompanied him. The produce stays in the garage as it waits for distribution. The house smells like old McDonald's shed, onions and potatoes and cabbage and carrots and rutabagas and old lettuce and turnips and peppers and wormy corn and squishy tomatoes and bruised melons, lots of root vegetables especially. They aren't as popular with the peaches and tomatoes crowd, the majority. The problem only rests with my inadequacy, my sense of inferiority. Faced with a good father of such magnitude, it's only human nature, I suppose, to feel minuscule and unworthy. This is me. This is nothing really new, however. I felt this way my whole life, inadequate. However, my own smallness would simply be an academic issue if it weren't for the following 2 vital facts. 1, as a 43-year-old man, I live with my father, yes, in the cliched basement bedroom. And 2, like most heterosexual men, I have the occasional interest in members of the opposite sex. The inevitable reaction of at least some women to my father runs something like this. He has such a good heart, and you know what? I value that in a man more than anything. You can tell he really cares about people other than himself. That's so rare. It is. It's pretty attractive, really. In a selfish society, your father is one person who actually is aware of others. I admire him so much. As you might guess, this creates an implicit/immediate compare and contrast situation, a dilemma. Unless I adopt lepers, I can't possibly live up to my father's high moral bearing, so I seem selfish and petty in comparison. On the other hand, if I attempt to give in the way my father does, I'm accused of not being true to myself. Sheila, Cindy, Anna, Carrie, they all essentially fell into the same tar pit. But then Jenna. Jenna is different. Jenna sees through the problem inherent at the heart of my domestic sphere. I pick this up in the way she leans away from my father when he becomes all grin and backslap. When he slides into stories about his volunteer gigs, Jenna has to stifle a yawn. We drive over to a fish and chips joint, her request. After we're eating After we eat, we're drinking beers, tossing darts. Jenna's tomboyishness may even trump her contrariness. She likes sports and beer and men. She's a guy's gal. She's fun to be with, smart. She's good people. Why don't you just get your own place? She flings the dart, 15. Can't afford to. I fling mine, bored. At least not yet. I like you, she says, but your father? She tosses the next one, 20. He's kind of in the way, you know? Well, I don't know, I say, outside the two. Come on. Yeah, maybe a bit. Jenna loops her hair back into a ponytail. She tells me she finds all the volunteering a bit much. She asks me if he's manicky. I tell her the truth. He's always done that sort of thing, always. Who gains from all that? I mean, is it for them or for him? I don't know what to say. Nobody has put it to me that way before. I'll lend you $1,000, she says, seed money. She lights a cigarette, takes a drag. She gives me one also. So I move out, only 10 minutes away into this tiny 60s era one bedroom. The apartment is inexpensive, but boy, it's seen some better days, that's for sure. The dishwasher is olive green and whirs as if run by a dozen hamsters. The outlets spark, the walls are nicked and lacquered with black marks. The hardware floors appear faded and scuffed. Still my own place. Jenna comes over frequently. I'm paying her back on a monthly basis. My father calls. He hurt his knee, wrenched at lugging bags of potatoes. He says he'd like for me to help him out with the produce distribution. Great. It's just a lot for me to manage with my knee. Get your girlfriend to help you, he says. He's forgotten her name. He calls her girlfriend. I can't bear to tell him that Jenna would rather get an appendectomy than think of herself in such a way. Okay, I say, I can help on Sunday. Then I have to work. I'm assistant manager at a sub shop, and we're understaffed as is. So for most of Sunday, I'm filling the station wagon with fruits and vegetables, unloading them into baskets splayed all over the garage, then doing it all over again. Backbreaking work, and we've only accomplished half, if that, of the job. I don't know how he does it. It's a labor of love, Mom says, or of masochism, more likely, I'd like to add. Jenna's over later. We're watching boxing, her choice, and playing cards. What's the point of all this? Of all of it? I tell her it helps the homeless. She says they must inspire other people to donate food, that my father cannot be the only one. We're watching two stubby Honduran guys pummel each other. The guy with the dragon tattoo is winning. Why don't the farmers just sell their leftovers somewhere else or take it themselves to a shelter or something? I have no idea, I say. He's been doing this a long time. There's a system. You know what? I think he just doesn't like to waste food. Honestly, I think it's that simple. She puffs air through her mouth and shrugs. The three of us are standing in the middle of a field. I'm watching the tiny white butterflies shimmy from one flower to the next. Is this the spot? My father asks. I think so, Jenna says. All right, he says. But I don't see anything. I don't either, I say. Despite the wind, it's humid. We're dripping with sweat. My deodorant melts down my side. I have the string. I feel like a water buffalo. Jenna walks ahead a bit, scouring the grasses beneath. She's walking carefully so she doesn't step on it. She tells me to yank on the string again. I do, and the weeds shift 10 feet off to Jenna's right. That's all I needed to do. Jenna comes up with it. It's a weird kite, yellow with various kelp-like tendrils. Reminds me of a jellyfish stuck in the Gulf Stream. We lift it back into the moist sky. My father wraps his hands around his head in delight. I like seeing him waste time. You have a nice girlfriend, he says. Jenna. Right. She's different, not abrasive exactly. She's just independent. Jenna says her ears are burning. She tells my father that I'm so much better off living on my own, that it's healthy for me. Yes, it was probably time, he says. I'm watching the kite flop around in the heavy air. He's his own person, Jenna says, and maybe someday he'll be as accomplished as you are. This is a subtle dig, but I'm not sure my father will see it as such. He winks and scratches his leg. I don't know if I'm accomplished, really, just active. You like staying busy? I do. It keeps me young. Young is good, Jenna says. I give the jellyfish more slack. Or the perception of it. And the perception goes a long way. It sure does, my father says. But I'm 67. Another 10 years and I might be in the dirt. Who knows? We listen to the birds. I smell the skunk cabbage. I want to shower. What if you could live for eternity? Jenna asks. She likes this kind of barroom bullshit question. Couldn't do it. The end makes it sweeter, and passing on the baton. A week later, I break it off. With Jenna, I can see where this is going. And though she seems healthier for me than the rest, this is probably an illusion. I know it. I'm at the same point as usual, except instead of being in love with my father, she finds him somehow small and limited. It's still about him. Can't escape it. His fucking presence is still manifest in every goddamn conversation. It's not him, Jenna says. What are you talking about? I don't care about your father. It's you. You're stuck with a certain mindset. You want to be your own person. Don't talk about it. Be it. She isn't angry, just frustrated. There's a difference. By the winter, I decide to move back to my parents' basement. I'm sick of making Kraft mac and cheese and eating along on my sad futon. I miss the garage filled with bruised green peppers. Your father will be delighted having you downstairs, Mom says. He could always use a hand. I know, I say. I won't quit my day job. I'm back to the quagmire, feeling whatever cliches you want about doing a person good, and flush that right down life's everlasting shithole toilet. He planted the seed also. I'm rooted here. My feet aren't going anywhere.